The National Defense Authorization Act, currently awaiting a vote in the House, contains a provision that would create a new office dedicated to investigating UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomena. According to the Register, the potential office would exist under the umbrella of the Secretary of Defense and will, quote, evaluate links between UAP and adversarial foreign governments, other foreign governments, or non-state actors. The NDAA provision also requires that the new office provide an annual report to Congress on its investigations. It's unknown whether that report will be made available to the public. We sure hope that it will be.
I would guess that it won't be. So my general theory on all this, and I worked at the Department of Defense and am devastated that I was never read into any of the UFO and UAP phenomena, but I will say this.
Did you try? Were you like, how do I
get
into these meetings?
I did a lot on Space Force, did not get into UFOs. But I will say this, just trying to take the most objective stance on something that can seem like a kooky topic, but something we do have to take seriously. In my mind, it's one of two things. There is an actual, it's either something extraterrestrial that is not from this planet, or it is something that our adversaries, a technology that they have that we were unaware they had, and we don't know how it works. So there's a number of different things that we've seen, whether it's, aerial aircrafts, things that are subterranean, can go into the ocean, can come out. And either way, we need to, as a nation, for our national defense, get our arms around what it is. Right. So I certainly agree with this decision to move forward in investigating it further. And I do think Congress being more read into the process. This has been former Senator Harry Reid has made this kind of a post-office focus of his, is getting more of this information to Congress, because even as the former leader of the Senate, he didn't have access to much of what DOD was looking into with regard to UFOs and UAPs. So I think it's a welcome move to, require a report, have elected officials more looped in on what we're finding.
Are there a lot of examples of that where UAP turn out to be foreign government technology or technology from agencies that are outside of the knowledge of the particular agency that's observing it?
So my sense is this, and is that is probably the case, but it is also highly classified and compartmentalized that it's hard even within the institution of the DoD to know what they're looking at, because it could be compartmentalized where the person who's analyzing an aerial phenomena isn't read into what it might be, even if it's our own technology. But the scary part to me comes with if it is in fact the Chinese or the Russians, potentially some of the things we're seeing, that they may have much more sophisticated capabilities than we were aware of. So it's certainly something we need to be investigating.
And the good news here is that creating a government program, creating an office around this, then incentivizes that office in order to just continue to perpetuate itself, like every government agency does, to then leak to the press, to be open with Congress, to keep this issue alive in a way that nobody particularly has an incentive to do. So finally, there will be an incentive structure in the government to be more transparent about UAPs. And if they have something that does suggest extraterrestrial activity, they will be eager to find a way for that to get out, rather than the previous incentives which made people eager to keep it concealed.
Well, and that's what's been so interesting with the history of our country around this phenomena, is it is one of the only held secrets within our federal government. Like most things that we try to keep under wraps eventually come out in some way. They're reported on, they leak, whatever it may be. But, Project Blue Book has come under scrutiny years after, but it remained concealed from the public for decades, and we weren't aware of its activities. And it is interesting that DOD and some of the intelligence agencies do have these off-the-books programs that even Congress isn't really aware of and able to scrutinize. So perhaps this is a necessary, important step that's going to have a bit more accountability and oversight. That said, one thing I have to mention, because Ezra Klein wrote about this in the New York Times a while back, where he basically introduced the concept that it is very possible there is extraterrestrial life out there, and we as a society, not just as Americans, but as a global society, are just not ready to accept it, and that's why we've kind of turned a blind eye to so many things that have so much evidence that's been out there. I thought it was fascinating for like a very mainstream reporter to come out with something that, 10 years ago would have been something you'd only say with a tinfoil hat on.
Well, and how did they so effectively keep things under wrap for so long? Was it by painting anybody who asked questions as a tinfoil hat? Was that key to the ability to keep it secret? Because it wasn't exactly secret. It was just that it was not treated with any credibility.
That's my understanding, and there have been a lot of investigations into it afterward and documentaries made around it. But keep in mind that, the Department of Defense, for example, has entire departments within the department built around information warfare and knowing how to communicate in a way that can force certain outcomes. I say that because part of it would be ridicule. It's a very common tactic that's used to try to stop, or to try to downplay something that an adversary might be putting out. We certainly could employ that on our own citizens and people who might be raising questions that you don't want them to. So I think it's very interesting. I'm very open-minded on UAPs and UFOs.
It reminds me of the way that the press and Wall Street dealt with the exposure of, in the 1930s, there was this fascist Wall Street linked effort to overthrow FDR, and it was exposed by a general that they approached, Smedley Butler, to try to be the lead of it. And the way that they responded to it, the New York Times and all of the major Wall Street figures, J.P. Morgan, was just ridicule. Just what a joke. This ought to be in the funny papers rather than grapple with the facts that had emerged. Just make fun of them. Who would ever do such a thing? Not us. Are you crazy?
Yeah, it's an incredibly powerful tactic. People do respond well to ridicule.
And then nobody wants to look into it because then they're afraid that they'll look like a clown.
Yep.
If they ask the wrong questions.
Exactly. Tomorrow on Rising, David Sirotto joins us to break down a new set of pro-Kristen Sinema ads funded by groups with big ties to Big Pharma.
Plus, Team Rising will discuss efforts by former President Trump to oust Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell from party leadership. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.